Hi friends, welcome back. Let's take a look at Tezos together. I'm Rocky Outcrop. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode. Let's look at the charts. And what do we have? If I take away all of the drawings and we just simply, and take away the oscillators and just simply look at this and say high, low, lower high, lower low. In this section here is a downtrend. In the bigger picture, what have we got? We've got this high here, which came in at this came in here. This was a high, a low, a higher high, which is ever so slightly higher than the other one, ever so slightly, but it's higher. It closed higher, and then a higher low, and then actually, this maybe is actually then a higher low compared to here, and this is just part of the downward trend, part of the flux on the way down between making our major peaks and troughs. So drawings are going to come back on, but there's one, there's one, there's one. And there's one where you could kind of ignore this in between area if you wanted to from the broader perspective. And that's visible over here in the weekly time frame, quite clearly. I think this is much clearer in terms of the weekly time frame. Go down to in terms of the overall what I'm getting at there. But if we go back down to the 24-hour time frame, then there is totally fair to say that we've been in a downward trend since the 25th of April. And that's a fairly significant period of time, of course. Just take the measuring tool so it can tell us how many days it is exactly. That means we've been in a downtrend for the last 69 days. So what do we have here in terms of this downtrend? Let's just look at it. This is a low here, and this is a lower low. How are we getting on in terms of these things? Well, this is lower. How are we getting on here in terms of these things? Well, this is higher than this one. This most latest one here is actually higher than these ones. So this is bullish divergence we have in the stochastics. Over here in the RSI, we don't have any of that divergence really. And what about the DMI? Well, we have divergence between the last lows and the most latest ones. But if we look here as well, just in terms of the RSI, is this going to end up being slightly kind of bullishly divergent just at the very tail end here? If you were to consider this to be a low and this to be a lower high, and this to be a lower low, then in this section, and that's premature. Every time we talk about this, we always throw out the warning: don't get carried away, don't look at things prematurely. That's stupid to do that. You can go wrong too often. But it is good to be aware in advance that this could potentially turn out to be slightly bullishly divergent at the end of this here, if that's the case. And that would be nice enough to see if it did happen, coming in at around about where we would have a higher low overall here. That means that we've actually fully really stressed the range here, and overall, I have to admit that we are essentially inside a sort of box. I've drawn the low part of this box onto low side of box here. Overall, in terms of what's going on, it's just this sideways thing, and overall, then this is a potential for a turnaround top type thing, but also a consolidation at a point where we could be going on then to make the all-time highs and going on and thereafter. We're going to just have to call this equal in terms of its likelihood for an outcome. Looking at this in general, though, if you were to say that this is overall an uptrend overall, and zooming right out, and you look at this sort of overall downward sort of structure here on all of the oscillators down below. And that then you'd have to say that it's not great momentum wise, okay? But then of course as well you have to make the argument of that these things need to reset. If we're going to go in and repeat all of this upward action towards the top side, then we would want to have a decent resetting of the oscillators and give them a chance to cool off a bit. So this is why the crucial areas really do boil back down to, I'm going to have to remove all that crap off the chart that I've just drawn on there, that is staying above the sort of 2,400 area. Going below that area, means that we're also coming in to test this previous high over here before we made our highs on the way up, and we could be asking several questions about this overall. And maybe we want to see a Fibonacci retracement on this thing, just purely drawn in from what is the wick high. Now, of course, we know the body closed lower than this previous one here. If we draw in from the wick high down to the low here and assess this price action, then what do we have? Because I've already got that drawn in, right? No, I've drawn it body to body. Right, okay, cool. So I've got these body to body ones here on here. So we've got a couple of them, and it brings the 236s in here. 236 on the most smallest of all the Fibonacci retracements comes in at 2,695, then 2,734, then 2,839. In this sort of 2,700 to 2,800 area is kind of crucial for the prices to turn around and establish that in the longer term towards the upside if we want to be continuing the upward trend. Now, looking over here towards the dollar prices, we can see that we've actually, got this question questions being asked in around our 230 line. Now, of course, it turned out that 225 has been more sort of where we've seen the prices go down to a couple of times. But what we've got is got a lower low here on the go, while the bullish divergence could be starting to form here on this. But now, of course, again, it's premature to say that. Everything else is more or less the same in terms of, just this downward trend here as it happens. And this head and shoulders happened, and then we came down to fulfill the full measured move from it. Maybe we can then have a double bottom. Shout out to Ross, by the way, but this would be a smaller time frame one. Just purely looking at this as being saying, will we get a turnaround from these 2 points here? Having had our downward movement off the back of this pattern, could we see the prices turn around here and then go towards the top side with a touch of little touches of the sort of the bullish divergence on the go? But for this to happen, I'd like to see the prices move back up above $2.40, so that we could say that this was that we can say that this was a low, a high, lower low, and that was a local low after all, in the same way that you can kind of say that this was a local low. Now, that's all very rich, very, very rich. This is not fair to really say that exactly, because this here low, the current one that we've got in, really is kind of like the low. And you could compare it to something like over here and say that these are the lows and whatever else, instead of doing what I just did. But if this does turn out to be the case here in this green banana that I'm drawing on right now, and we get an upturn off the end here, then that would be what we would need to see happening. Otherwise, it's bearish, right? Otherwise, it's bearish, because we're below the 236 on all of the Fibonacci retracements, and where's left to go to other than perhaps then on down. I'm really going to have to get rid of all those drawings. If it's not, this is the messiest it's been for quite a while. Do we want to check in and put ourselves through the pain of looking at it versus Ethereum? Okay, let's do it. Oh gosh, it just continues towards the downside. So, the chance that there would be a turnaround in around this area here, given the support, the potential for support, profit taking, then moving around, that's not fulfilled. The dream has not been realized. But of course, over here is where the previous low really was. And this is part of a sort of potential head and shoulders thing which failed and then moved towards the top side. So could we see this? Was this the 50%? The 50% line again is what we need to continually point out to folk, that 0.0085 is where you need to see the prices remain above in order to sort of be more or less long-term bullish on this thing. This is definitely been bearish since the 26th of April, and it's at what point this stops happening. And if we look towards the oscillators down below and make assessments of this downward trend, at this point here, we're just starting to see could we get jams in here and it actually maybe turn around, in terms of the sort of the overall. Well, look, there was this increase in factor here on the go, and now we've got it come down past that point where we had the resistance on that RSI, and we've gone on beyond it. So if we get sort of some bullish divergence coming in here as a result of this, it sounds like I'm having a stroke. As a result of this, then maybe we'll move towards the top side. But of course, that's all very hopium based, and it's actually premature to make that assessment. If we look down the time frames, maybe you can see this having a slightly different sort of overall outlook. And if we get rid of that and then look in here at the lows and this downward trend and see that they're slightly up a wee bit here, then maybe you can start to see that happening. But it's a bit premature for that. But look in here and going left and going left and going left, and regretting trying to go left and then going back to where we were because I was trying to make a point, but it doesn't really matter. The 382 is right there. So this would be the area where there's three areas where the prices often turn around at Fibonacci retracements, having gone past the 236, which creates it to be a valid one. You're looking at 382, the 50, and the 618. And well, we've made it to the 382. If it turns around from here, sure, that's where the non-greedy bears will be taking a lot of their profit at if they were actually trading this, which again, nobody actually is. Yeah, great. Thanks. Great episode. Really appreciate it. If you want to tune in for more of this, then hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. There's only 90 left until we get to 1,000. How amazing is that? Amazing. So share the video with a friend if you've got one that you think would like it. YouTube.com/C/RockyOutcrop for the easy to share link. Catch you later. Thanks very much.